What's up, guys? Tim Kreitz, Tim Kreitz Adventures. See this little house right here? This was where I lived from 1978 until 1982. Little 750 square foot house. Growing up very poor in my early years. I got a story I want to tell you about this place and about some things surrounding it, so stick around. That footage that you just watched on the cold open of the video was shot 14 months ago. That's right. 14 months ago, over a year ago. And the reason why you've never seen it before is because the subject matter of that vlog was so personal that I gave up on it, chickened out, and never finished the video. But one of the things you guys told me recently in the Railroads and Crossroads episodes at the end during Garage Talk, when I asked, what do you want to see on the channel? What do you feel like might be missing from the channel? One of the many things that you guys responded with, some really good ideas, was we want to learn more about you personally. Like, we want to, we want you to talk about things more related directly to you. Your upbringing, this, that, the other thing. And it reminded me of having started that video that I chickened out on. And I was talking to Shade Tree Surgeon about it. And I said, Josh, man, here's this story I was going to tell. I want to see what you think of it. And he literally became so enthralled with it that he told me, you have to make this video. I'm going to be pissed off at you if you don't make this video. So here I am. The reason I was at that house is because it was a house that I lived in when I was a little kid, when we were extremely poor. And what had reminded me to ride by there and see what the house looked like was a picture that a buddy of mine had posted to Facebook. It was a class picture from 1981, 1982, when I was 11 or 12 years old. It was the 6th grade class photo, me and all my classmates. And if you look at that photo, you'll see that all my classmates looked so happy. They're having a great day, they're all excited to have their picture taken. And then you go down to the lower right and you see a little Timmy Kreitz at 12 years of age, who is absolutely as pissed off as he can be. I've got the worst, most horrible frown on my face. I'm clearly angry. And I had not seen that photo in over 30 years. As soon as I saw that, all the memories of that day came flooding back to me. What had happened was, I wanted to stand up at the top toward the left of the photo where my buddies Mike and Trey and John and a few other kids that I hung out with were standing. I wanted to have my picture made with my buddies. And we all got situated and we were ready to have our picture taken, and everybody was all excited. And the photographer says to me, "You little boy in the blue shirt, you need to come down from there. You're not tall enough to be back there. We need you down front with the girls." Oh my gosh, man. I can remember a wave of anger coming over me, just like that turning point in Citizen Kane where the little kid has the turning point with his sled and he instantly goes from being a happy kid to an angry kid. That was what kind of a moment that was for me. So I would not smile. I would not really even cooperate. I wouldn't stand the way he wanted me to. And finally, the guy's a class photographer. He's got to herd one group of kids out, herd another group of kids in, and get on with his miserable day being a class photographer, because that's the only photography job he could probably get. And I carried that anger with me in ways that I didn't really think about a whole bunch until I revisited that photo. At that point in my life, I was a really angry kid. And one of the things that had happened just prior to that just prior to the day that photo had been taken, was that I had come to believe as an 11 or 12-year-old kid that my life had been a mistake, that I was a mistake. And the reason why is because not long before that, I had learned that I was conceived out of wedlock. I was an accidental pregnancy. I knew that my mom and biological father had been teenagers when I was born, but it had recently sort of set into my mind the fact that I was the reason they got married. And then they had my brother, and then of course they were too young, and the times, and you know, there was just so many circumstances working against them. The marriage didn't work out. They split up, and it left my mom to raise two little boys with very little education and very little work experience, and she struggled and struggled. And not long before that photo had been taken, I had come home one day after hurting my foot. I had jumped off a piece of playground equipment at a park and essentially almost broken my foot. My mom had to pay a very expensive medical bill over it. I came home one day, walked into that little house that you saw in the very beginning of the video, walked right in the front door, and there was my mom sitting at the couch with a pile of papers on her lap, and she was crying. And so I, instantly became very concerned. And I said, "Mom, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" And she said, "Because I have no idea how I'm going to pay these bills." She said, "Look at the electric bill." And I'll never forget this. The electric bill was $25. This was probably in '81. This little bitty house that we lived in, and the electric bill was $25, and she couldn't afford to pay it. And she said, "And I got your doctor bill in from your foot," and it was, I don't know how much it was. Even back in the late 70s, early 80s, healthcare was expensive. And she said, "I have no idea how I'm going to do this. I have no idea how I'm going to pay this. We don't have any money." And at that moment, I felt like the biggest burden in the world. I felt like I had been a mistake. I was an unwanted pregnancy. I was, essentially born out of wedlock. And I just felt like everything about me was causing my mom to cry. It was a horrible thing for a little kid to come to realize it in the way that I did. And of course it was wrong thinking, but it haunted me for a lot of my life, into adulthood. I always had this feeling in the back of my mind like I had been a mistake. And then on top of everything, God made me an artist. And artists kind of have a hard time fitting into the routine of daily life anyway. And that made me sort of feel like a misfit in a lot of ways. It was tough. But I got lucky. I could have gone a bad way. I could have gone on into my 30s and my 40s thinking my life was a mistake and that I was worthless and that I was nothing but a burden to everyone around me. But some very key things happened in my life that changed all that. One was my mom remarried to my then stepfather, who's now my adoptive father, who in my late teens adopted my brother and I took the name Kreitz. That's why I'm so proud of that name, Tim Kreitz Adventures. I know it's spelled weird, it's hard to pronounce, but I'm very proud of that name, and this is part of the reason why. I suddenly had this father figure in my life of a guy who really loved me and was willing to work really hard to see that I was brought up correctly. And that's exactly what he did. And that started to change my life. When they got married, things got easier. There was more money. They were both working. He had a good career. He had a nice house. Mom was happier. When Mom was happier, my brother and I were happier. And it's sort of begun this transformation that helped me to be able to adjust and be a somewhat normal person. Later on in life, I met my wife. And anytime we talk about this subject, she always tells me, "I know you weren't a mistake because God made you for me." That sort of stuff is super powerful and can help you to realize the value of your life when you have people and experiences like that after trauma or after a rough upbringing. And I know there are a lot of people out there who never got that. You never had that. And you're wondering as an adult, was my life a mistake? No, it wasn't. I was just lucky enough to have people in my life who taught me otherwise and showed me otherwise. And if you're one of those people out there who's thinking, why am I even here? My life has no meaning. It's just drudgery. It's a toilsome journey. Why is it like this? I'm here to tell you your life's not a mistake. I'm here to tell you that your life is very valuable, every bit as valuable as mine, and you have the right to be happy and do what you want with it and enjoy your existence while you're on this little transitory part of your spirit journey. I'll leave you with a parting thought. You now know something about me that you can use the comments to hurt me with in this video. I've opened up to something deeply personal about my past, and I'm not good at that. This is sort of a breakthrough that I even got this far in the video without deciding to quit. So you can say whatever you want down in that comment section. You can lift me up, you can lift up other people that are affected by this same kind of a thing, or you can use this information, this deeply personal information, to be hurtful. The choice is yours. But what I would ask you is, if you feel compelled to be hurtful with your comments after hearing this story, maybe you should look at the content of your own character and determine, if nothing else, what it would be about making a negative comment or a hurtful comment that would make you feel good. Alright, here it was, my first deeply personal vlog. Let's see how this goes. I'm Tim Kreitz. We'll see you on the next episode. Until then, God bless you, and we'll see you. Bye.